This week on the Computer Chronicles, privacy online. We'll show you how to reject cookies and otherwise keep web marketers from stalking you. We'll show you one web service which gives out privacy licenses to websites that promise to look out for your privacy. And we'll tell you about a service called Pravada that lets you surf the web anonymously. Plus tips on how to meet people online but not give away too much about who you are and where you are. Plus my pick of the week, the world's smallest digital camera. Privacy online, this week on the Computer Chronicles.
The Computer Chronicles is brought to you by RonDiamond.com, the oldies site on the internet. Music and memories from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, not just another jukebox. Additional support comes from the law offices of Ivan Hoffman, lawyering with integrity for internet law, copyright, trademark, and other intellectual property law. And by TechWeb for up-to-the-minute technology news.
Hi, and welcome to the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stuart Chaffee. In this recent issue of Yahoo Internet Life magazine, writer Robert Scheer made an astonishing observation. He writes in here, on the internet, anyone can find out more about what you read, what you think, how much money you make, than Stalin or Hitler could have ever learned about you in their totalitarian regimes. Welcome to the world of privacy, or lack of it, on the web. This week, we want to help you get a handle on preserving your privacy in today's wired world. And here to help us get started is Deborah Pierce, staff attorney with the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Hi, Deborah.
Hi.
First thing I want to ask you about is cookies. A lot of people have heard about cookies. Many people don't really understand what a cookie is in the internet context. What is happening when someone writes a cookie to your machine?
Okay, well, cookies are just little pieces of text files that websites can put on your computer, on your hard drive, so that if you want to go to, like, say you sign up for the New York Times online, it'll remember your password for you, and you won't have to retype your password.
So they're not necessarily evil?
No.
But can they be?
They can be. Online banner ad companies like to use cookies so that they can monitor what pages you're looking at, what ads you're
so it's not
reading.
only to say who you are, but they can actually figure out where you're going and what you're doing online.
Right, and they can start to create a picture of you, create a profile of you, if you will, and that profile can grow and grow depending on all the different sites you go to and what you read and what you do on the net.
All right, so maybe customizing ads for you is not too terrible a thing, but I want to talk to you about another situation which might be more serious, and that is health information on the web, right? Very personal. Let's talk about the cookies first of all. You're on a site right now. The default in a browser is that cookies are enabled usually, right?
Exactly.
So you don't know what's going on.
Exactly. So if you go to a site, we can go to a medical site. We'll go to drcoop.com. Let's just go there.
All right, so you might be going to this health site because you have a health issue that you want information on, and so something which presumably is personal to you.
Right. So I'm going here. So let's just scroll down a bit. Their top story is about AIDS. And do I know everything I should know about AIDS? So let me just click on that. And with cookies enabled, when the site comes back up.
So nobody's told you anything, but somebody's just put a cookie in the machine.
Right.
And presumably knows that you're a person who's wondering whether you should have an HIV test.
Right. And this whole process was invisible to me.
Right.
I didn't see anything.
Now, how do you get around that?
Okay, so what you can do is I'm going to close out of this, but what you can do is you can reset the cookies on your browser, and you can set it up to either disable the cookies or to warn you. So what I will do is I will reconfigure that. All right, you're going to go to your
Internet
I'm in
Options.
Explorer, go to the Internet Options, go to Security. I'm going to customize that.
And look for the cookie settings, huh?
Right, so you kind of scroll down until you find
them.
There they are.
Okay, and
so they're
enabled.
enabled. So now I'm going to set it to prompt.
That means?
That way, when someone wants to put a cookie on the machine, it will say, do you want to have this cookie put on
You have the
machine?
option of saying, no, I don't want you to do it.
And then I can say yes or no.
All right, so you've done that. Now let's go do this over again then.
Right. Okay, we've got that set up.
And see what happens now when you go to Dr. Coop and click on the AIDS section.
Well, we've already, before I even get to the site, is to provide a more personalized browsing experience.
Isn't that a nice euphemism?
Exactly.
A personalized...
And it doesn't sound bad at all.
Yeah.
So, if I wasn't attuned to what a cookie is and how they can be used, I would say, Oh, more personalized browsing. Oh,
Sounds
I
cool.
want that.
But it's also not telling you who is putting the cookie
Exactly.
on.
Now, some other browsers will tell you.
Okay, so you do Netscape,
So
it might
if you
actually
do
tell you that.
Netscape, it will tell you, double click, or somebody else will let you. But if I say no, sometimes they'll keep trying to put a cookie on until they wear you down and put
quickly, the other thing I want to ask you about is privacy statements. Now, if you go to Dr. Coop, they're going to say, we have a privacy statement, we're going to protect your privacy and so on. I want
That's
you to
right.
show us that and make sure the consumers understand that that's not necessarily, doesn't necessarily mean you're protected, right?
Okay, well, let's go to their privacy statement. Scroll down
And then
until
you'll
we
see a
find
lot
it.
of these.
And
At
it's
the bottom
not,
there.
yeah, here we go.
over the left there.
Privacy statement. We'll click on that. We'll accept the cookie.
And they're giving you a cookie again. So every time you do something, somebody's tracking
They want to
you,
know. They want to know what you're looking at, how
Yeah.
long you're looking at it. So let's look at this statement. Okay, they want to protect your privacy.
Okay, it's all, I mean, they're all
Okay.
probably going to say, oh, it's wonderful,
Right,
et cetera, et cetera.
Here's some, information about IP addresses. We're not gonna do
Okay, but
that.
the bottom there, it says,
Here's-
we will not identify who you are, even though we're
Right.
tracking this stuff.
And here's cookies, and here's what they are. But now when you scroll down farther, you'll see that they have something called community partners. And they represent well-respected healthcare organizations,
that
but we don't
nice?
know who they are.
Okay, we only have a little bit of time left. I want to ask you, despite the fact that it may say in a privacy statement, we won't reveal who you are, that doesn't mean people can't find out who you are.
That's right. If an attorney has a subpoena and they want to get information about you, or law enforcement has a warrant and they want the information that you're
They can
storing,
get it.
they can get it, and you have to comply.
Or they could actually put together other data points and kind of just logically figure out who you
Exactly.
are, right?
You only need 2 or 3, and that
Sure.
would be, zip code,
Right.
birth date,
Could
or
your
gender.
potential employer find out you were checking out an HIV
They
question?
could.
Wow. Deborah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, well, there are technology companies out there that offer a variety of approaches to protecting your privacy online. One of them is called TrustE, and this is Bob Lewin, President and CEO. How you doing, Bob?
How you doing?
All right, let me ask you first of all, what is TrustE? What business you guys
We're
are?
set up as an independent third party, and we provide a program that ensures that consumers have the ability to control what information is collected by websites.
All right, so if some website qualifies and meets your standards, you'll let them carry your little banner that says, TrustE said they have a good privacy
That's
policy?
correct.
So if I go to, now this is your website here?
Yes.
So if I want to know about some of the things I was talking to Deborah about, could I
Right.
find, is there kind of a tutorial about privacy, things you should do on your website?
Well, certainly. Well, first of all, from the consumer's point of view, there's a section that for the consumer. One of the things we suggest is go to the click on the protecting your privacy online, and there we have a bunch of information that is useful for the consumer. Specifically, for example, if you look at the holiday period, there's some shopping tips of what to look for on websites and so forth.
Right, okay. So now I see it's a .org. You guys are a nonprofit?
That is correct.
Huh. All right, now let's talk about going to a particular site. One thing I notice you do have in your tips is children. I want to ask you briefly about the kids are very vulnerable, obviously. They're not going to read the darn privacy statement. They don't know what's going on when somebody says, where do you live, what do you want, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Is there anything a parent can do in particular to make sure when their kids online they don't get sort of abused from a privacy point of view?
Absolutely, and also website owners should know that there are federal regulations related specifically to children.
So there are
under
government
13.
regulations on kids?
In this particular area because of the sensitivity and the importance.
Sure.
What a parent can do are, first of all, we have some guidelines specifically on this that can be downloaded from the website, or we have a booklet that they can write us and get. But what is required is parental consent, that the website has to ensure that they can get parental consent through various mechanisms that are outlined in these documents.
Do these things work as a practical matter? I mean, 8-year-olds online, it's going to say, does your father say this is okay?
It makes it more difficult for a website to knowingly collect information. But, is it 100% guarantee? It's tough.
All right, let's go to one of the sites that you guys have licensed, like Intuit, I guess, is one of them, right? If you go to Intuit, now let's pull up that site if we could. We'll see somewhere there it says, like, TrustE said this is okay, right?
Now, to get to this point, a site has to go through a very extensive process where they have to define exactly what information they're collecting, who's it being shared with, talks about cookies, and identifying what those cookies are and where they go. After they do that, and we're satisfied with that, they're allowed to carry the symbol.
So there's your little TrustE banner.
So a consumer going to a site, first thing look to see, for example, if they have a TrustE symbol, that'll take them right to their privacy statement for Intuit in this case. Now, to ensure that this is a certified site, that it's somebody that's just not capriciously putting on there, That's why we have the click to verify button.
Okay, so I can click, they can't just put that banner up there. You guys
No.
will actually verify that it's
No,
there.
we actually go out and verify through looking for our symbol on websites, and
Yeah.
we check that against our authorized licensees, and those that are unauthorized, we send letters to.
Let me ask you this, Bob. As a practical matter, we saw with Deborah before, big policy statement saying Dr. Coop looks good. Who really takes the time to read that stuff? And even if you do read it, it may be lawyerese and it may not really represent what's
Right.
going on. How safe are you? If you say, oh, cool, they have a privacy statement, everything's fine.
It is difficult from the point of view that, yes, a consumer does have to read the pages.
Yeah.
What we try to do, at least, is to put all the meaty things, the important things at the front of a statement, and it's readable. It's not a legalese document or a marketing hype document.
Right.
But having said that, some of them can be extensive, just like any contract.
Sure. But in general, is it fair to say that if I go to a site and it says trustee has said this is okay, that their privacy policies are probably better for me than somebody who doesn't have that?
Absolutely, and more importantly, you as a consumer have better control over how your personal information is going to be collected.
And I know we're just talking about trustee. I take it, are there other organizations that do similar things, Bob?
Oh, certainly. The Better Business Bureau has a BBB online program, very similar to ours, to name one.
Yeah. What about the commerce part? You talked about shopping online. Obviously, people are concerned about credit cards and people getting that kind of information, which could really damage them in a financial way. Do you guys get involved in that at all?
From the standpoint that the procedures that we follow, Fair Information Practices, talk about adequate security, and specifically as it relates to credit cards, to make sure that there's some protection for any information. And in the guidelines, we talk to the consumer about what to look for to ensure that.
So maybe go to your site to look up the guidelines about how to shop safely. Anyhow.
Certainly.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob.
My pleasure.
All right, coming up next, a way for you to surf the web anonymously and some advice on how to meet people online but not give away too much about who you are. We'll be right back. Well, one way to preserve your anonymity online is to sort of wear a digital disguise to mask your true identity so all those websites and advertisers can't follow you. One company that'll help you do that is called Privata, and this is Rick Jackson, President and CEO of Privata. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Stuart.
Explain the basics of what Privata does. How do you help me preserve my privacy?
Certainly. While you're online, your identity or information about you can possibly go to the websites that you're going to or be tracked by third parties. And what Privata does is build a set of network infrastructure technology that disassociates who you are in the real world from who you are online by allowing you to create a personal digital account.
So I can be sort of anonymous in my behavior online, so somebody may know I'm doing stuff, but they don't know who it is that's doing this stuff.
Correct.
All right, let's do an example here. Now, you have a site up here, which people might be shocked to know, can actually find out a lot of information about you, right?
This is actually consumer.net.
Yeah.
And there's a privacy analysis portion of that website. And what I've done is I've gone in using our standard Microsoft Internet Explorer browser.
So this is just the normal situation. I haven't done anything with you guys yet.
Exactly.
Okay, so what can they find out about me?
Well, for example, they'll actually do an analysis of everything that they can get off of your machine when you're visiting that site. And for example, it'll come down here and show me what browser I happen to be using on the site. So it shows me that I'm using MSIE 5.0. And if we scroll down a little bit further, it'll tell me about network statistics as well. For example, this is the internet address or the IP address that we're using to browse the site.
Okay, so wouldn't somebody like to know exactly where I am, how to get into me? What?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's go up here, and this is the simple control panel for our product, which is called Privata Control.
Okay, so let's stop for a second. So right now, without having used Privata, somebody can find out all the data about me. I am sort of publicly identified by all that stuff that's been put on my hard drive that somebody can get to. What are you going to do now?
What we're going to do is we're going to activate the Privata Control software, which is actually resident on this machine.
Okay.
And that is going to create a connection to the Privata network and literally shield any identifying information or information that can be traced back to my identity.
So instead of going from my machine to that website and going from my machine to you, you hide me, and then to the website?
And then out to the website.
All right, so show us what the difference would be now after we have sort of Privata-ized the machine.
So we're just going to click on this icon up here, and now we should be private. And I'm going to go back and refresh this particular page.
So it is a thing you can sort of turn on, turn off.
Turn on, turn off. You can actually change your identity. So for example, you can create an identity for yourself, for other people in your household, or perhaps an identity for work purposes and identity for personal purposes.
All right, so we now have Pravada running, and we go back to the same site, and how am I protected now?
Now let's go back down here and look. And for example, if we look at the line that talks about our browser, it says that it is a Pravada browser as opposed to Microsoft Internet Explorer.
So you've masked that specific information.
We've started to hide information. And what a lot of people don't realize is actually that their browser is set up to even give out their email address. And so we'll hide that, for example, from a website. Come back down here, and you'll notice that our internet address has changed to something that's not unique.
You put in another number that isn't really me.
Exactly. It's the address actually of the Pravada network.
All right. Now, how do I do this? You have a control panel, I guess, where I can sort of create the parameters I want?
This is really the high level, just turning privacy on or off. If you want to actually have more control over different settings, you can bring up the Pravada control panel. And there's different things that we can do. For example, we make it real easy to turn cookies off. Just click on the cookie button.
Now, can I do more than just, we did a little bit earlier, say, okay, prompt me on cookies or disable cookies. As we talked about, sometimes you want some cookies, but you don't want others.
Exactly, because it's not really a black or white decision. You want personalization, so you want to enable some cookies. So one of the things that we can do is actually go into our cookie manager, and we can actually selectively block cookies on different domains.
Okay, so some guy can put a cookie on me, some guy can't, and I can set that up ahead of time.
Correct. So if I look here at the cookie manager, and let's do a show all. These are some of the sites that I've just gone to and have started to put cookies on me. You can see they put them down fairly quickly. And you'll notice, for example, that I've blocked a cookie that keeps the date on PrivacyNet. So I can actually go into, say, Yahoo, select that, and block that particular cookie if I wanted to.
Now, is this a download that I just go to your site and I pull down, I can use it?
Pravada actually sells its network services to ISPs and to some of our financial service partners. So a customer can ask their ISP if the Pravada network is available, or go to actually AmericanExpress.com.
All right, so I don't go to you directly. So you're really providing your service to the guy I may be dealing with.
Right. We think of it as privatizing all the digital on-ramps.
All right, it's sort of like the trustee we talked about before. I mean, I want to go to a site that's got Pravada there, so it'll protect me when I'm there.
Well, actually, you can go to your ISP service, have Pravada, so that everywhere on the internet you're protected. But it's delivered via your on-ramp.
But I mean, it's the ISP that's making that decision, or am I making that decision?
You're making that decision. They're carrying the product forward.
Got it, okay. And does it cost me something to do this?
Most people are charging approximately $5 a month for the service.
Okay, so it's sort of fee service.
Correct.
All right, thanks so much. Great.
You're welcome.
Well, one of the really cool things about the web is that you can meet people online, but there is a risk there. Who really is that other person hiding behind that chat room handle? Here to help us deal with this privacy problem is the online dating guide for About.com, Brenda Ross. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Stuart.
So you're in the business of helping people get to know stuff about other people online, but there are limits to that, I assume. And I want to ask you about a couple different situations. I mentioned the chat room. You go in a chat room, you start to talk to people. Are there sort of basic rules about what you should and shouldn't do in a chat room so you don't endanger your privacy?
Yes.
They are?
Well, first you want to pick a handle.
Okay.
So
Which should not be your name, I assume.
I would say you want to be kind of
So if you're
subtle.
Sandra Nichols, you know.
Yeah, I put that in Sandra Nichols 25. And it's like you don't want to do that. What you want to do is pick something. Most people in a chat room, I would probably pretty much say all people in a chat room are going to pick something cute.
Right.
You know, like Twinkie or, you know, or sassy.
Okay.
Maybe even just an aspect of their character, but they're not going to put their real name. You just don't want to do that.
So number one, make sure you hide behind the handle. You don't want to be Brenda in the chat room.
Yeah, don't use your social security number.
Yeah, got it. What else besides the handle? I mean, people are going to ask you questions in a chat room. Hey, where do you live? When were you born?
Right. If you're going to tell somebody where you live, just be really general and pick a region. Don't pick something specific. Say, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Right.
You don't want to say, I live on the corner of Jackson and Steiner.
Sure.
You don't want to do that.
Okay, what else? So you don't want to tell people exactly where you're at. Now, here's an interesting one. Suppose somebody says, you have a website. You say, oh, yeah, my website is blank.com. That's bad, right?
Yes, that's bad because, and a lot of people don't think about this, but when you register for a domain name, you're going through Network Solutions.
Right.
And anybody can go to that site, they can type in your domain name, and they can find out your name, your address, and your phone numbers.
So giving
all there for
somebody your
anybody.
domain name, your website address, is giving them all that information, too, if they want to get it.
There's an option on Network Solutions where you can have that stuff deleted, but you have to, they don't do it
Right, but
voluntarily.
most people haven't done that.
No.
What about somebody says, oh, what's your email address?
Well,
Should you give them your email address?
you know what? It's always smart if you don't know somebody to give them your fake email address. And you can get those anywhere. You can go to Yahoo.
So
Yahoo
like
gives
a web
anybody.
address where it's not really tied to a particular website.
And
or
don't
something.
use your name. Even though it's cooler to use your name, it's better to just use something fake.
Okay. All right, so let's get away. That was your chat room, actually, on your website, right?
Yeah.
Let's go to the other situation, which a lot of people don't think about, which is Usenet newsgroups and postings.
That's right.
People don't realize that you post something on a newsgroup somewhere, anybody can see that forever, right?
They archive this information for years.
Yeah.
And they don't let it go.
So what would be an example of a dumb thing to do?
Okay, here's one. We went in alt drugs, and
Alt
this guy
drugs.
writes, I do so much speed, okay? Now, let's say in 5 years, this guy's changed his ways, and he wants to be a cop or a lawyer, and he
He's
goes and
applying
applies for a job, and they can do a search on him, and they can find this. Oh, gee, I wonder if this guy still does
And
all
people,
the
I mean,
drugs
employers
he used to
do that, or they hire services that do that?
I would.
Yeah.
Why not? You have nothing to lose.
Okay, so moral of the story is posting on a newsgroup board is public and sort of eternal in a way.
But you would have to use that person's email address, and you can change your email address all the time. So you
Okay.
could probably do your fake email address for the use groups.
But, I mean, the caution here is be aware, if you post stuff, this is a public statement in
It's
an
not-
open park
it's not
that
gonna
anybody
go
can hear.
anywhere.
Yeah, it's going to be there for all. Now, let's talk about your specialty, which is the dating service. I mean, the whole point is you want to go and meet somebody, and you want to find out who they are, and you're going to want to reveal a little bit about yourself to figure out if there's a good match there. You have matchmaker.com up
I
there.
have
Okay.
Matchmaker here.
Now, what's the risk at the beginning there in, like, just signing up for a service like Matchmaker?
The thing that sets Matchmaker apart from the other sites is they ask you so many questions, and I think they're kind of intrusive. Because
So just to register, they ask you, like, what? Can you show us?
just to register, they want to know what month you were born, what day, what country, your zip code, and then once you get into it, they want to know, you know, what kind of car you drive, what's your eye color, your height, your weight.
And as we talked about earlier, that data can then be used to correlate with earlier data in some place that maybe didn't ask for that, but can find out exactly who you are and whether you're that person who said, I want an HIV test, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, I'm not sure about that because this is all anonymous, okay? When you join a dating service, they give you an anonymous
Right.
email, and let's say you try it for a trial because they charge you. You pay, you know, you think you're going to meet somebody seriously when you're going to pay money to a dating
Right.
service, but, you know, if you just sign it for a week free trial and then you meet somebody on that, let's say we met,
Right.
okay? After a week's up, I shouldn't give you my real email address.
Okay,
I
use
should-
that anonymous email that the service
my
provides.
fake Hotmail,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Cupcake@hotmail.com.
But still, you got to think about all this data you're giving somebody at some point. Now, the last thing I want to ask you about is the scariest part to me. You go on to, say, matchmaker.com. I meet you. We chat a little bit online. I know a little bit about you, and I say, well, she's not answering these really good questions. I want to find out really who she is and where she lives, and is she married, and is she this? I can actually go to a website and find that information,
You
can't I?
can. You can go to datesmart.com, and you can, all you have to do is give them my name, my current address, and my date of birth. And if you can get that information from me, and I'm thinking,
Or find it somewhere online.
yeah, then you can find out pretty much anything about me according to this website.
Like what?
Well,
Educational background?
You can find out if I've been married or am married, divorced, my educational background.
Whether you've been in prison?
Right, and I
Wow.
don't really want you to know that.
All right.
Oh, what my title is at the job I
Yeah.
have. I can find out if, you know, if somebody's still alive. And they,
So be cautious, moral of the story.
Absolutely.
Okay, meet somebody, but carefully. All right, thanks. That's our look at privacy online. Don't go away. Coming up next, my pick of the week, a cool sort of spy cam. I'll tell you all about it in just a moment. Now for my pick of the week. If you've watched this show before, you know I have a soft spot for digital cameras and cool watches. So how could I not flip when I found this little gadget? It is Casio's new wrist camera. Yes, it is a digital camera combined with a digital watch. This may not be the most practical watch in the world, but it is an amazing piece of technology. Not quite Dick Tracy, but pretty darn close. It's only monochrome, 16 levels of grayscale with a 120 by 120 resolution, 14,400 pixels, but it does take pictures. In fact, you can store up to 100 digital photos in this watch. You can also caption them, you can merge two photos into one, and with an optional PC link kit, you can download the pictures to your PC or your website, or upload pictures from your PC to your watch, so you can carry around pictures of the kids right on your wrist. It also features a kind of address book mode, which Casio calls the visual data bank, in which you add to the usual name and phone numbers the person's picture. Pretty good for trying to remember names or recognize faces. It has an infrared port so you can beam pictures to other IR devices or share pictures between watches if you can find somebody else who owns one. By the way, it's a pretty good watch. 5 alarms, countdown timer, day and date, stopwatch, etc. It's definitely for the early adopter, but it can also be very practical. My favorite application, taking a quick shot of the location number of your parking space so you can remember where your car is. It is the wrist camera from Casio. Cost is under $200. That's it for this week's show. Thanks so much for joining us. If you have any questions about anything you saw, please check out our website at computerchronicles.org. Have a good week. We'll see you here next time.
The Computer Chronicles is brought to you by RonDiamond.com, the oldies site on the Internet. Music and memories from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, not just another jukebox. Additional support comes from the law offices of Ivan Hoffman, lawyering with integrity for Internet law, copyright, trademark, and other intellectual property law. And by TechWeb for up-to-the-minute technology news.
To purchase a videotape copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-310-7850. Please specify the show number and the topic.